Alright, I'm sorry about that. I was away for a little bit, and then they launched. It launched much sooner than I thought. This is going to be SJR versus BBC. NA, round 6. Final round of the regular season. Then we'll enter the playoffs based on... And we'll see who the top 4 teams will enter the playoffs. NA 4v4. And as you see, right now, BBC is exiting the side tunnel, and SJR is set up a little bit out here in the water. Looks like they're probably going to try a range setup against BBC. Question is, what exactly is BBC taking? Are they going with the brawl, or are they also going to be range? So I'm going to try to get in here right away on there. One of these mechs, we see a medium pulse build by Lucy Liu. Neutrality is taking medium pulse on the Timberwolf, so it's definitely a much more up-close personal fight BBC is going to look for. So they... In here, airlock, large pulse, small laser, Stormcrow. They're going to want to control this the cap point, this Epsilon point, and then from there they're going to try to lure SJR in, force SJR to play a little bit closer. Now the winner of this match will clinch a playoff spot, and the loser will have to wait on the results of the other matches. But in the brief mathematics that I did, I would say it's going to be a little difficult for either team, only because of some losses earlier on. In individual drops when it comes down to drop difference, but it's too early to tell. Lots of matches to be played, so let's just focus in on this one. As you can see now, BBC is sitting back behind these buildings. The points are neutralized, but SJR does have a little minor advantage there on points. We'll have to see what BBC is going to do to try to maybe turn that around. They do have that fire starter. They could try to sit behind the cap, the drill there, and just let's cover while they attempt to cap it, but it can be a little difficult, especially if SJR can get some mechs in good positions to return fire. As you can see, all these mechs right now from BBC are just sitting behind. And remember, for RHoD this season, there are no strikes. Airlock moving out a little bit to the side, maybe trying to open up a little bit of angles for this. Not really sure exactly what they're planning on doing in this situation, though. From the SJR side, we got 2 Stormcrows, a Raven, and a Timberwolf. Let's check out what's in this Timberwolf from G-Man129. And he is loading out just a standard laser vomit. Jaeger in one of the crows with the large pulse mediums. Only the 4 mediums are only a little bit cooler. Pie Maker utilizing the slower Raven 2X version with 3 large lasers, which seems to be just fine for the fight they're likely to get into. And Gut is in a Stormcrow with the pulse laser vomit as well. Right now, SJR would have a hard time taking that cap point though, because of all that short range. If they have picked it up on BBC, if they try to pressure that cap, it wouldn't take much for one of those mechs to get nailed. Especially if they try to put that Raven up there, it's going to be a little bit slower. It's going to have a hard time getting away. You see, they have done 86% now to airlock. I'm going to zoom in on him, and we'll see if he's really damaged or not. Nah, it's pretty much spread all over the place, but any damage will count, especially if one of these teams has to push. All that early damage is going to matter. Airlock looking towards tunnel. I think he's just trying to figure out some range, because he is the one mech in this team that really can try to trade these 2 large pulls. But if one mech tries to trade against 4, that could be pretty bad. He might, if they're all in view, they could get some good damage. Now, Kriven did take some damage in his light as well. It's just that left arm. He's probably right side focused on his lasers. Not really any serious damage. And here you go. They have moved up towards this cap point. And are they going to push it? Looks like they might decide to make a push here. Kriven has slowed up on this cap point. He could try to delay his own attack to join in last, but they're doing some damage on him while he's on this cap point. They're finding the gaps around this generator and doing some good damage there. And they're also doing damage on Neutrality. Let's try to switch over to him. Well, it doesn't want to switch right over to him, so let's try to select him on this way. Neutrality's on 82% in that Timberwolf. It's not really major damage. The left arm probably doesn't have much on. Well, it's going to have some weapons there, but it's really spread out damage now. Overall, though, SJR definitely has the advantage. We got to look at Lucy Liu's mech. Yeah, right arm hurt. getting that brighter orange in that CT. That's some good damage they were able to put on that little move they tried to get the cap point, but they did get the cap point, and they are ahead in points now with 8 minutes remaining in this match. It looks like SJR is definitely winning the trades. RHoD is getting seriously beat up over there. He just dropped down to 57% open CT, left torso also open. He is trying to get behind cover, and he does manage to get behind cover before going down, but he is definitely damaged. It's going to be a really hard time for him to get back engaged in this fight. He's going to have to rely on the rest of his teammates to do a bit of effort there, and then he can join late in the match. But you look at those percentages, SJR 94%, 99, 99%, meaning they are way ahead right now in damage. But BBC does have the cap, so it's up to SJR at a certain point. They might have to put the pressure on. However, with all this damage that's been done, I think it would probably go in SJR's favor if they push. Because SJR, it's not like they don't have some range or weapons that are able to handle the up-close fight. It was even lasers, and Jaeger finds an angle and takes down RHoD. SJR is now up 1-0 in this 4v4 match. This is just the first drop in a best of 5. Now with the advantage taken with the first kill, SJR seems to be moving up, getting positioned to start applying a little more pressure, but they are doing it slowly, making sure their mechs are all together. Got taking the turn there around the bottom ramp, and now they are going after Epsilon. It looks like they might decap Epsilon. But BBC is just behind this building, and Jaeger has a seismic. He's not going to waste that heat too much on that Firestar if he doesn't have to, and pours it instead on Delta, who is one of the Stormcrows is beat up. Should go down pretty quick here, and it does. Only one Timberwolf and a light left, and now just a single Firestarter is left for BBC. All right, Torso is open.
Heat level critical.
And Gut finishes off Kriven for SJR to go up 1-0. Haha, I figured out what's going on here. Switching some things up from where I had them in that previous cast that I did. Bear with me a moment. Alright, so now we'll be waiting on these players to get prepared for drop number 2. Drop number 2 is going to be on Caustic Valley. I'm being told my overlay was up the entire time. No! I tried to rush this cast up, and yeah, I see. I thought I clicked on game, but not. I didn't. So that's a fail casting move for drop number 1, but we'll get that fixed for drop number 2. So for anybody just joining us, SJR won the first drop against BBC on Crimson Strait, and now we are waiting for Caustic Valley. In that drop, BBC took a bit shorter range max, mostly focused around the medium pulse, and SJR took kind of your standard Laser Vomit Crows, Laser Vomit Timby, and 3 large Laser Raven. they stayed in the water and were able to basically whittle down BBC and apply the pressure at the end to finish them off. So let's look at Caustic Valley, 225 tons, lots of different drop decks you could do with this one. It's a little bit on the lighter side. You can go with a mix of just straight out, go a bunch of mediums. You could add a couple heavies, a couple lights. You could go with a heavy, maybe a couple mediums and a light. You're not really gonna see an assault in this drop, but that's okay. We don't need assaults. We'll have assaults later on in this match, perhaps on HPG or River City if we get to that. You might see streak setups. You can see SRMs, you can see mediums of Gauss, you can see large lasers. There's a lot of different ways to play this. Now the cap point in the center does mean that teams will want to contest that point, but that can be a little bit difficult if you're outside of it. It's pretty hunkered in there, down low inside that caldera. You can pretty much cap it without taking a threat if people aren't at least on the ridge of that caldera. However, if they are able to push, there are some points where they can shoot inside the caldera, and if a team went range, that's what they'd probably try to do, is just to, again, similar to the last drop, you just try to whittle them down over time, apply that damage, get them down as low as possible. Then if you have to push towards at a certain point because of time and cap points, you're doing that with hopefully a huge damage advantage. And then even though you might have range mechs against Brawl, you're trying to use that damage advantage to finish off a few mechs as quickly as possible and keep that advantage throughout and win. Looks like they have some other players in the lobby. I'm just going to be watching here, waiting for them to actually launch. So for those people who aren't familiar with what BBC is, BBC started off as basically a team formed out of Lords people, and then some of the ones that went over to EMP, and I think there's another team, I can't remember the name of that other team off there right now. I think it's like JW, it's not JW. I don't know, maybe somebody will remind me in chat. But it was formed from that. Now a couple of those players have actually joined SJR. Criven is a full member of SJR, so there's a little bit of Jagbro versus Jagbro going on, which isn't the first time we've had it this season. SJR1 did play SJR2 earlier this season. SJR1 taking that one 3-2. Alright, looks like they're all in lobby. Hopefully we'll drop soon. This time I'll be here waiting. I've decided that for casting, I need a second monitor. With a second monitor, I could have all my overlay stuff up on one side, everything that I do with casting up on one side, one monitor, and the actual game on the other monitor. Make my life so much easier. And they're still, I'll be waiting for them to launch here for drop number 2 on Crimson Strait, 225 tons. Oh, I thought it already went, but no, it isn't. No waiting. Teams do have 15 minutes between drops. Sometimes it'll take a little while as people try to figure out exactly what they're going to do. Maybe try to adjust their strategies based on the previous match. For example, if let's just say BBC was thinking about brawling again here, they might have said based on the last one that they might think, SJR is probably going to go range, so let's adjust a little bit so it doesn't happen again. Maybe they don't like the drop zone that they're on, so they're going to change exactly what their plan was there. People could be changing up builds entirely, just trying to adjust to what each other are doing. That's why I think it's good that people have enough time to do that. I think 10 to 15 minutes is plenty for teams to be able to adjust, but you don't want to make teams just have to drop within, let's say, like 5 minutes or something like that, because then people wouldn't have enough time to think about how they want to adjust their strats. And that time in between the match is really important to just people to recover from whatever is going on and then re-figure out exactly how they're going to be playing the next drop. Okay, I'm still waiting. Still waiting on this launch for drop number 2. I see at least some of the guys from BBC in the lobby, so I'm guessing it'll be the next minute or two. Alright, they have launched. And here we go, drop number 2, Caustic Valley, 225 tons. SJR took the first game, so they're up 1-0. BBC looking to tie it up. The only eligible count point in this one, other than their starting bases, is going to be inside that caldera. And we zoom in here right away to Jaeger, sporting 5 medium laser Gauss, Gut with just 4 medium Gauss, and then on the other side, Airlock with BBC has taken streak. So it looks like BBC is going, they're going for a streak-heavy setup, and SJR is going to have to be concerned about this. Well, they'll have the pinpoint damage. That DPS of those streaks, lock-on, auto hits and stuff is really pretty strong. Let's look overhead so we can figure out how SJR is going to respond to this and if they're going to notice it in time. You see G-Man and Pi getting some early damage. I don't think there's enough time that they would have actually gotten some builds. We'll see if BBC what they want to do. They could just try to rush across here, dead rush on those streaks. We're going to stay overhead for this movement here because following this movement is going to be really important. And BBC is moving around the edge of the caldera, and I don't think they see this move heavy enough, and they're going to be standing there. BBC is getting pretty close. I'm going to zoom in now on one of these players, Rick Rom here. I want to see what they see. They don't see the mechs yet. They don't have them on radar. They're just going. They're moving around the edge. We could see where SJR is at in the distance there. SJR has responded. They decided they are going to pull back over to around the F3 hill and just try to create some range near that water. Now BBC is going to have a lot of room they're going to have to cover, but SJR has given up the center, and that will allow BBC to cap this and decide if they want to push or if they're going to just wait it out for SJR to actually move in. As I talked about before this match, SJR is going to have to apply a lot of damage from range before they move into a brawl. Before they get into brawl range. But I'm trying to figure out exactly what SJR is going to do here. I'm going to go into one of these players here. You can follow their position a little bit better. They are pretty close to the caldera now, so if BBC notices this in that D3, E3 spot, they could choose to move over. As you see, it's only about 200 meters to the edge of that caldera, well within streak range. And it wouldn't really be any different than if SJR was closer at this point. So this would be a great time for BBC to just rush on in. But I'm not sure if SJR knows I don't think they know exactly what builds BBC has. Otherwise, they probably would be trying to play a little bit longer range and use those Gauss as much as they can before the fight starts. But they might have got enough time with the target ID module to have gotten a build. And if they have one build, they can be pretty comfortable that the rest of the builds are going to be similar. Now BBC, they have options here. They can either just try to remain on the opposite side of SJR, make SJR keep spinning around, or they can cut through. And you'd rather have SJR, if you're BBC, you'd rather have SJR cut through. Or you can try to chase, and I think that they're trying to close. It looks like they're working to close the range as much as possible. But they had a little better opportunity there. And honestly, if they knew where SJR's position was right now, they could cut right through the caldera and get within pretty close to streak range. But SJR just keeps spinning around the outside. As getting a player, that you see that those points are ticking up for BBC. They're up to 185 to 22. That means they've had the point approximately a minute. Plenty of time in this match. So SJR has decided to take the tail up. Now there's that open area, right? We saw those lasers going that they might be able to shoot across the caldera in, but BBC just has to sit on the other side there, and there's no reason for them to poke in this position. There's absolutely no reason for BBC to try to trade at all. They don't really even have to scout out this position very well. They knew where SJR was then, and they could just play based on that spot. But BBC is working, and they're trying to work the angles to close in here. But right now, if they just cut right through the caldera right now, they might be able to catch Jaeger. It'll take a while for them to get there, but they would definitely get in that range before anybody could pull back from SJR's side. And as you see, BBC just continues to work this around the perimeter of the caldera. Now SJR is all the way up there, but Gut has gone on the cap. Is BBC going to respond to this? They easily could with these streaks. And there's no way Gut's going to get away from that if BBC pushes in on him right now. But BBC's just standing. I think that they're a little bit concerned about that range, but no, here they do. They are making the push. This is do or die with these streaks. There is not much nuance here. You're going in and you're saying, RNG, do your thing. A little bit of spread out streak damage right now as they push over there. They didn't take the person on the cap. Gut sitting on the cap is going to be behind them right now. They're trying to get on the main force, so the main force can't pull away. But you can see there's a lot of time here. They're not shooting as they close in. However, now the damage is being applied. A lot of beat up mechs, so Frack at 37, almost down. Airlock at 61, and they trade kills 1-1 each for both teams there. Yeah, Gut is probably the freshest mech on SJR side. You see that 47% up high. Jaeger's at 98 actually. He's the freshest currently. But it's still just a 1-1 game. Jaeger does shut down, but Gut takes down Airlock. RHoD takes down Pie Maker to make it a 2-all game. The question is, how damaged are these other mechs? Can they find a more damaged mech than this Bravo? Because Bravo's really just not that beat up. Oh, if he could take this back shot here on Delta. No. Does not finish him off and shuts down, and Gut is legged and taking some serious damage there. Jaeger does take down RHoD though, so it is a 2-1 in favor of SJR. Gut is legged, about to go down. Lucy Liu is open CT. Jaeger just needs a really good shot there, taking his time with that heat, but all he needs to do is get a couple Gauss rounds in there and he will get it. So we will zoom in on him. He is fresh. Every Gauss round matters here. He's want to hit every single shot that he can. Lucy's not getting any locks as he attempts to... Oh, nice job. Jaeger applies those medium lasers. Lucy does get off that streak shot. Doesn't do very much. Jaeger down to just one Gauss ammo at the very end, but applies those medium lasers. That hit Reg, applied the SCT, and Lucy Liu went down. Lucy Liu topping the board in damage with 533. Jaeger topping it for SJR at 505. The rest of their players between 313, 243. Pretty good damage throughout. The damage is definitely, it looks like it's, yeah, if I add up the totals, it's pretty even total, and that's not really what you want with the streaks. You want to be applying as much of that streak damage as possible, whittling them down over time. Just completely eating away at them with those streaks. But you saw during that movement they weren't able to get it because they kept trying to fire the Stormcrows on the hill, and I think that hill was providing a little bit of a shield against those streaks. I wonder what happened if they had actually just pushed right on Gut there on that center point, who was capping, tried to take him out, and then worry about the rest of the mechs later. They might have been able to get a little better focus fire early on. So SJR is now up 2-0 against BBC. As I mentioned, both these teams came to this match with a 4-1 record. Their only losses were to EMP, both teams losing to EMP. And the winner of this match will clinch a playoff spot. I think it'll be a second. Well, it might not be a second seed. It'll be a second, or it could be anywhere from a first to a third seed that they would get. So moving on, we are going to have a drop number 3 on HPG Manifold. HPG is a tough one. You know, when I instituted these rules, it was really interesting to see what exactly how these maps would all play out. HPG is kind of a nasty one because HPG's cap point, the center cap point, is underneath that whole complex, the HPG radar complex, which means if teams want to control that point, which you kind of have to at some point, it's really hard to shoot from the outside. Pretty much going to go brawl. So HPG can develop into a really quick brawl. There are some other options though. You could try to attack the other team before they get in there with some really fast mechs. You could also try to work the angles outside it as much as possible, like we were talking about with these other two games. But that's pretty tough on HPG. I think there's a lot of areas that people can hide. Streaks can be a nasty thing in HPG, but they could also work against you. If the other team takes a lot of ECM, you cannot put up UAVs to overcome some of that ECM, so if you don't have the BAP to counter pretty much 8 mechs, or in this case 4 mechs, that could be a problem. Now this one's going to be 275 tons, it's 50 tons more than the last match, so we can expect obviously a little bit heavier just based on what they took before, that could be like, say, upping a couple of those mediums to heavies. It could also be something, I think you could see an assault here. Except the only problem with taking assault here, and the reason I don't think we'll see an assault, is because it's going to move slow. And if it's moving slow, it won't be underneath as quick as if they're possibly the rest of your opponent's mechs, which could be a severe disadvantage. Now, both teams have to take the alpha point, and that does come into play here. I don't have map tactic ready for tonight. I'm gonna talk about it theoretically here. So basically, there's the gamma sigma points are the sides that those two teams start with. Now the alpha lances are kind of behind, a little bit angled away from those cap points, so they are the farthest distance, essentially one of the farthest cap points that you could possibly be in. The other one is arguably maybe a little bit farther, but it's pretty far away. Teams don't have the short way to get in. So even if you did take an assault, it could take a long time for that assault to get there. Your heavies and mediums might be just entering the caldera while you're getting past the gate. You could hold up, you could have your team hold up, but that means the other team could just be sitting underneath theta waiting for you with their seismic. They know exactly when you're going to come in, and they're able to focus their fire really well. So these teams are getting their mechs ready. So I just got the word that Seraphim defeated QQ 2-0 in the Major League Mech Warrior tournament, and that means that Seraphim advances in the winners bracket, and QQ will drop in the losers. You know, this is gonna mess up on me when I do this. I don't care. We'll look at that brackets a little bit here, see what happens. This will be for the Major League, and we will go into the 8th bracket. This isn't the full bracket, this is just a bracket of those matches concerned. So Seraphim is going to move on. And they will, so Imperial's going to have to face Isengard, who defeated, I think it was Phoenix Company. So Imperial faces Isengard sometime this week, and the winner of that match will then go on to play Seraphim Rising Storm, which is interesting because if that is Imperial, Seraphim is already going to be playing Imperial in RHoD. So we might even get a little bit of a preview for that match, because that match won't be next week. It'll be a week after that, as we will move into that first round of the losers bracket between the teams that lost in their first match in round 1 and then the teams that are losing in this round 2. Those teams will face off, and then if you lose in the losers bracket, you are out of the tournament. However, you know, that's not the worst thing in Major League Mech Warrior, because if you lose early, you have actually opportunity to win an award. It's kind of interesting. They're making some various awards, had things like mech bays and such being given away, but this is going to be a little bit different. I'm not sure exactly what the prizes are, but there is some prizes for the one of the first teams that gets eliminated, which is pretty cool. Looks like these guys are still in the mech lab. I don't think they're in the lobby yet, so it might be a little bit before we get to see drop number 3. SJR has taken the first 2 drops. They won Crimson Straight playing a range setup against BBC's Brawl, and they did take a medium Gauss Crow type setup. I think it was fully mediums and Gauss Crow setup against BBC's Street Crows. And the Street Crows lost. I mean, that's something to note, because everyone has been talking about how streaks are OP, streaks are the best, you can't beat streaks on any of these brawls with lighter tonnages. And maybe on a lighter tonnage, maybe on something like 175 tons, that does have some truth. I know we've used them. heavily at that lower tonnage. But I think once you get a little bit heavier, like these mediums, it can go either way. In that engagement, it was pretty close. It was a one-on-one at the end there. Lucy had the open CT. Jaeger sitting about, I don't know, maybe 300-400 meters away from Lucy. Was able to get 2 Gauss shots in on that exposed CT and then finish it off with the 5 medium lasers. This music, so I'm running, I pretty much only play this stuff that's Commons music now, at least for Twitch. In this case, it is the Twitch music library. This is Pop Sky. It's definitely very video gamey. One of the songs in the Nintendo Disco. Unfortunately, I think that, yeah, it's all, no, it's not all on here. Let me see what else I can draw up a little bit different flavor. Probably all, it's all this kind of electronica music though. Alright, so some players in the lobby. Hopefully we'll start soon.
Ain't no way to explain or say how painful the hangover was today. In front of the toilet, hands and knees, trying to breathe in between the dry heaves. My baby made me some coffee, afraid that if I drink some, it's probably coming right back out me. Couple of Advil, relax and chill at a standstill with how bad I feel. I think I need to smell fresh air, so I stepped out the back door and fell down the stairs. The sunlight hit me dead in the eye, like it's mad that I gave half the day to last night. My bad sight made me trip on my ass right into that patch of grass, like that's life. All of a sudden, I realized something. The weather is amazing, even the birds are bumping. Stood up and took a look and a breath, and there's that bike that I forgot that I possessed. Never really seen exercise as friendly, but I think something's telling me to ride that 10 speed. The brakes are broken, that's alright. The tires got air and the chain seems tight. Hopped on, it felt the summertime. It reminds me of one of them Moosab lines, like sunshine, sunshine is fine. I feel it in my skin, warming up my mind. Sometimes you gotta give in to win. I love the days when it shines. Whoa, let it shine. Sunshine, sunshine is fine. I feel it in my skin, warming up my mind. Sometimes you gotta give in to win. I love the days when it shines. Whoa, let it shine. Whoa, let it shine. Whoa, let it shine. Whoa, let it shine. Whoa, let it. If I could, I would keep this feeling in a plastic jar. Bust it out whenever someone's acting hard. Settle down, barbecue in the backyard. The kids get treats and old folks get classic cars. Every day the kids.
Yes, I will perpetually call Grim Isengard. I don't care. They could change their name in the future to anything else, and they will always be Isengard to me.
I hear voices, I see smiles to match them. Good times, and you can feel it in the fashion. Even though the heat cooks up the action, the streets still.
Alright, they launched.
Enough kids to catch them.
So we're going to be entering drop number 3. SJR is up 2-0. If they win this, they will win the match and move on to the playoffs. If BBC can take it, then we will move on to drop number 4. Seems pretty evident. Initially, I just want to get into some of these mechs, see what kind of builds we have. So LBX 20 SRMs, some medium, small, what? Smalls and small pulse. G-Man. I'll never understand a G-Man build. That's okay. Pie Maker with the Nova. Carnage with the Timberwolf. Jaeger with the Timberwolf. So on the other side, BBC Frac System, you know, these are pretty similar builds in a lot of ways. We got Novas on both sides. That's interesting. You might not expect that. Novas haven't been traditionally very popular, but they do work very well, and they got the new quirks, which give them a little bit extra armor. Oh no, I did switch the game, but I am in game now. I am game now. The overlay will not last for too long. I am sorry for that initial overlay. But we are in the match before any engagement happens. The teams are slowly moving up. So let's see which side wins the race. Race to the middle. Right now, it looks like RHoD is moving in a little bit ahead, and Piemaker is trying to drive forward, but from the other side. But I think that BBC is going to win this race inside. Now they get to try to set up for SJR. Now SJR is on the other side, so it's not like a huge issue with the race unless they can press that one of those sides and get some damage early on. Or not early on, but just hold that spot as soon as some of those mechs are coming in. But that is not what happened. We are now seeing a fight right around the cap point here. RHoD going for the legs and the Timberwolf, but his leg is already lit up, and his left leg is, oh, and he goes down. Piemaker applying that Nova damage. Fracta System now, his legs are beat up. And you see this damage. G-Man's trying to get those things down with his SRMs and small pulse lasers, and now down to one leg, and SJR is up 2-0, 3-0, one mech remains, the Nova. Or as they said in MechWarrior 2, Nova. Takes down Jaeger, but Piemaker finishes off Neutrality, and SJR wins this 4-1. And overall, they do go ahead and win this match 3-0. Nice brawl in HPG. Always fun. Always thrilling. Always, I don't know, always a brawl. Just a brawling good time. I like brawling. I miss it from early days of MWO. We don't get to see, it's not even the early days. It's been early days and it's come back and it's gone away and it's come back. And right now we're kind of not really in the heavy brawl. I mean, there's not that much brawling being played, but there are teams who focus on the brawl, like Restless Adders, and they do it pretty well. Obviously, they've been winning matches, and so there are teams that will play the brawl, even if other people argue that the Laser Gauss meta is strong. As you see the damage there, Jaeger putting up a lot of damage, 342. The Nova at 179, which actually is more damage than any of the BBC was able to get in that match. And as RHoD just dropped 49 damage, you know, it wasn't his fault. He was the first one kind of moving in there inside the cap point, and you saw all that damage right on his legs. They disappeared, melted away. And once you take down a big mech like that, 75 tons and 275 ton drop, that's a big deal, because not much other damage had been applied at that point. And SJR kept that one advantage throughout it, just taking out the next few mechs. And it wasn't until the very end that SJR lost a mech, but immediately afterwards, the Nova destroyed the Nova. Anyway, I appreciate y'all tuning in. SJR at 1 is now qualified for the playoffs, and BBC is going to have to wait on some other matches around RHoD to figure out exactly who is going to go into these playoffs. BBC will finish off the regular season 4-2. Their only losses coming against EMP and SJR 1. I will try to cast a little more 4v4 matches this week if I find out about them. I think there's some other really good ones that are happening among some teams all around similar records. So I'm going to try to get those up there because honestly, I love the 4v4. I love watching it. I love casting it. I like playing it. So I want to highlight it as much as I possibly can. So I'll see you all next time.
Man, feeling like I finally figured out my escape plan. Take it all in. The day started off all wrong, but somehow now that hangover is all gone. Ain't nothing like the sound of the leaves when the breeze penetrates these southside trees. Leaning up against one, watching the vibe, forgetting all about the stress, thanking God I'm alive. It's so simple, I had to keep the